everyone. It's another episode of the Patriot Torch with Marco Amaya and Ethan Foster. And we need to talk about the border crisis. Because it is a border crisis. It's not just like, oh, it's a couple people walking across the border. It's like thousands of people per day just completely invading our country. And then CNN and all these guys, there's no crisis here. Or Bernie's like, there's no crisis going on. There's nothing happening. There's nothing to see here. It's like, where's the disconnect? How are they not seeing thousands of people just crossing the border? Is that not a problem?
Well, it doesn't fit their narrative, and that's the same reason why you don't see any of the mass immigration in the leftist news media, especially not the one recently from the Congo, like we're going to dive into in a minute. But It doesn't fit their narrative that there is an ongoing humanitarian crisis going on at the southern border.
Yeah, it's a huge problem, and of course, the Democrats are promoting this activity of illegal crossing because they're fighting to prevent us to build the wall. They're fighting Trump. They're fighting. It's like, why are you fighting to make it weak? Isn't it important to have a country to protect our country and our citizens? It's like they see it as racism. The left sees it as racism. Oh, you hate illegals. You hate Mexicans. It's like, no. These are illegal criminals, right? They're illegally crossing. They're bringing with them, because we can't vet all of them because there's too many of them to even vet. They're bringing in diseases. They're bringing in drugs. They're bringing in human trafficking also. They're bringing in all these different issues that happen, and the Border Patrol is completely overwhelmed. They have there's sometimes they just a group of 5 people catch 200 people at a time, and sometimes you can't hold all. You can't just if you see a mob of people and it's just you and me, and we're imagine us trying to stop a huge mob of hundreds of people. It's not easy. So it's that's what's going on basically, because the wall isn't completely built at all. There's a video of an armed cartel member or a guy with a pistol in his waist escorting people into the United States. It was caught on camera, and it looked like it was the edge of a wall. The edge of a wall, and they're just walking around the edge of the wall, escorted by a guy with a gun in his pants. And after he brings the family into it's one guy with a kid in his hands. And once he's done escorting them, you can see him walk back across the wall to wherever he lives or whatever. And it's this is what's happening. There's no border patrol there. There's no security. Just completely, just invasion of our country.
Right. So Democrats, they don't want to get anything done. They don't want to get anything accomplished. They don't want the wall to get built. Not because they don't believe there's a humanitarian crisis going on at the border, because I think they do. I think that they know what's going on, but they don't want to give Trump a win. They don't want the American people to be able to point to Trump and say he's the one that solved the problem. So they're going to refuse the funding necessary to build the wall. So now we're going to suffer because they refuse to work. They don't want to accomplish what needs to be accomplished for the country to run as it should.
Right. It looks like the Democrats would rather see the country collapse than to give Trump credit for anything. Anything.
Right.
It's just unbelievable. And it comes to the point where it's not about Trump. It's literally look at all the people coming in through the border, and now they're the biggest sensation. I believe, from my viewpoint, is there was an Ebola breakout in the Congo, or in that area of Africa. And it just so happens that we just found hundreds of people from the Congo crossing the Texas southern border. I mean, guys, this is a big problem if we're having people that are coming directly from where it's known to have a huge breakout of Ebola right now, and now they're coming into the border, coming into our country, unvetted and unchecked. It's super dangerous. And the fact that people aren't talking about it as much is kind of crazy.
Well, it could be a national security issue too. If we have widespread breakout with diseases like this, it can very easily turn into a national security issue.
It is totally a national security issue already, because it's how are we gonna? The fact is the fact that they're not exposing it, or not as many people are exposing it, is telling me something about how they don't want people to realize the importance of the border security. Because look at how the Democrats' mentality would be totally destroyed when people realize that this is going on. Because then what was the point of stopping Trump and stopping all this border security from happening when we have possible Ebola infections crossing our border at this point?
It's politics. They don't want to give them a win. That's all it is. They would rather see the American people suffer than to give this president a helping hand in anything, which is despicable when you look at it. And also it doesn't fit their narrative. They don't want people to think that there's an overmass of illegal immigrants coming in. I have a bigger issue with Democrats turning their back on crime and pretending that these things aren't happen than even the wall not being funded and Border Patrol not having the resources that they need. It boils down to the fact that Democratic politicians turned their backs on crime, and now we, the American people, are suffering because of this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we don't even know who's crossing sometimes because it's illegal. That's why they're trying to point to all these numbers. There's tons of people that are not recorded because we didn't catch them.
Right.
We didn't catch them. So the fact that I've had Democrats, leftists tell me, oh, there's so much crime already happening in this country as it is that it justifies not even caring about the crime that's coming into the country. It's
garbage.
the most ridiculous garbage I've ever heard of. Because it's like we have to care about everything. We can't just be like, oh, I only care about these problems here. I don't care about how there's thousands of illegals coming through. It doesn't make any sense. We have to care about the country as a whole. And of course, it's being used in many ways. Another problem is cheap labor. If you have all these thousands of people coming in that are willing to work for anything, you have this huge supply of employees and workers that businesses can use, so it reduces the value of those workers in your company. Now you can easily replace them with another legal.
Well, it undercuts the wage of the working class, which
Okay.
is the problem. And now apparently you have AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, saying that global warming, climate change, is the reason for the mass illegal immigration flooding into the country.
Yeah, I was just amazed by that. I remember I responded to her on that tweet, and I was saying, so Venezuela collapsing because of socialism failing, and those migrants coming here, Ebola breaking out, and those people coming here, people coming in for welfare and to take advantage of America's beautiful country. This is climate change? This is what climate change is? Because I don't see how the temperature warming up has anything to do with society collapsing and having people migrate.
Well, she's a fool. And I like her. I do. I like her because I think she is what the mainstream radical leftists of the Democratic Party are. And I think that the Democratic Party needs to take a hard look at her and what she says in the media, because that does not coincide with what the American people want. Her radical leftist ideologies and thinking that global warming is going to kill all of us, that's not what people want to hear. It didn't work for Al Gore in 2000, and it's not going to work for Bernie Sanders in 2020, much like it didn't work for him in 2016.
Yeah, Bernie says the same exact thing. The world's going to end, I guess. The AOC says the world's going to end, and it's all about global warming. That's the number one problem. It's like a script that they're handed. Like, I don't know, I guess when you join the Democrat Party, you're just handed a script and you have to say global warming and climate change is the number one problem. Because it doesn't make sense, though. It's like so disconnected from reality that it's almost like, it almost like makes them look so dumb. Like, how are they going to win like that?
Well, so my issue is this. If you look at climate change articles, which I have, and global warming articles, which I have, they have numbers that can back mass global warming, but when you ask anyone, even a scholar, what can you prove climate change, what climate change can you prove will happen at a local level, at a local regional level? They can't prove it because the numbers aren't there. The numbers don't add up, and what they've done is they've manufactured a crisis. So the the scientists have manufactured a crisis so the politicians can point at a problem and saying the scientists are saying this, but really these are the politicians that the scientists like. So now the politicians are saying you need to elect us or the world's going to end, which is what the Democrats' 2020 election strategy is looking like it's going to be. In reality, if you look at the Arctic ice caps are coming back at an exponential rate for the first time in I think 2 decades.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. There's parts of the ice caps that are melting, but then there's parts of the ice caps that are growing. But they, of course, with the global warming people, they only look at the part that's melting. Oh, everything's collapsing. There's an ice cube that just fell off the cliff. When it's like the other parts of the Arctic that are actually growing. So it's totally biased. And like you were saying, these scientists,
they're politically motivated.
They're politically motivated. Why? Because there's people that fund scientific projects. Scientific research is funded by people. And some of these people have a political motive behind, funding these scientists. Because when you create like a scientific project that's saying we want to prove something, sometimes it's like, yeah, let's find evidence to, I hire all you scientists to find evidence of global warming.
Well, pseudoscience.
So it's pseudoscience because they're working to find something to prove their viewpoint versus, it's not just like they randomly come across these things about how to prove climate change. It's totally biased, but it's also coming from way up above in these world government type globalist powers that like this idea. Because when you think about it, what are they pushing? Like in Europe, I've seen it. They're pushing carbon tax. Because what they do is, the world's going to end because of all these carbon emissions.
So now we're going to overtax.
So we're going to have a reason to tax you to take more money from you.
That's what it's all about. Big government.
Big government wanting to control. So of course, where is it coming from? The left, because the left is all about giving government control. It makes perfect sense. So that's part of the problem with the climate change thing. And of course, when I go outside, it's beautiful.
Well, that's what my argument is. The numbers aren't there. If you look at it in a local level, it doesn't make sense, and it makes the rest of the climate change argument look scripted.
Yeah. Plus, all the supporters of climate change have been proven wrong over and over again. Like if you have all these people like Al Gore and saying the world's going to end and New York City and Florida is going to be flooded by this time, and it was like already like 7 years past that time. It's like, or something like that. It discredits these people so much because you have all these end of the world people that are saying climate change is going to kill the world when nothing happens.
Well, so the other reason why I think that this campaign strategy will fail again, and I hope they keep at it because I don't want them to win. I mean, I think it's humorous at the same time too, but the American people do not want to think when they're walking out of the front door of their house into their day-to-day life that their world is going to end. One, because it's not, and two, who wants to live like that? It is a power-hungry, politically motivated argument, and it's been completely fabricated in falsehoods and bad faith. And I haven't looked at a single article for climate change that has convinced me that it's not pseudoscience nonsense.
And I remember this guy Bill Nye. This joke of a scientist or whatever, Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Yeah, he has an engineering degree.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, dude, this guy he's telling people the world's on fire.
He thinks there's more than two genders.
He actually has like a political bent to basically a leftist is what he is, because he was saying he has a kids show, and it was really just disturbing because it's like this same guy that's saying. He actually says, I would definitely consider arresting climate change deniers. So first of all, he's like a fascist, sort of tyrannical guy that wants to...
neo-fascist.
Yeah, he wants to shut down dissent. But he's also a creepy pervert. Like he has this child show where he's saying it's like a lady dancing about how it's so cool to be bisexual and gay.
So... on another note, I'm going to take that and run with it though. So what is it with the radical leftists of the Democratic Party trying to normalize pedophilia? Have you seen this in the news in recent days?
That's true.
So the Democrats are trying to legalize pedophilia as a legal sexual orientation.
Yeah.
I'm just going to let that sit where it does. I mean, that's probably one of the most disgusting concepts I've had to read about in my time spent in politics, but as a political analyst I have to go over everything that I see in the news. But this is a real issue. I mean, how
it's worldwide too, it's not just here.
So how delusional can you be? And I mean, honestly, you're probably only going to see this in like New York City, Los Angeles, San Francisco.
It's in Texas too. I've seen articles from there, same thing. They have these get-togethers where these trans people are, for some reason, there's like these leftists that bring their children to watch these transgenders.
It's like a cult.
It's like a cult, and then they have these transgenders that are like wearing like sexual outfits, that dance in front of like strippers, in front of like.
I mean, how abusive to the child? How blatantly abusive to the child, and how perverted of a parent do you have to be?
Yeah.
To expose your child to something like that? It's just disgusting.
It's just absolutely ridiculous. I remember, they even have the kids like give money to the transgender, like they're a stripper.
So there was one video that I watched that there were parents. It was a perverted father and a perverted mother. They had their child. I think it was anywhere from 8 years old to 11 years old. It was a little boy. They had him dance in front of a bunch of gay people at an LGBT parade, and all the gay people were throwing money at this child as if he were a stripper.
Right.
You want to talk about the
Child
most
abuse.
disgusting thing, right? Just blatant child abuse. I mean, honestly, you want to talk about the biggest disgraces to the United States of America? The cities that are the biggest disgrace are all run by Democrats. You look at Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York City. They are garbage towns. Not to mention they're rat infested. Their homelessness rate is skyrocketed in the last 20 years. And I mean, honestly. Look at that. You want to put a Democrat in office? Look at these cities and the problems that they have.
It's funny because we're saying the leftists are turning these towns into pieces of crap. But it's like, wait, no, they're actually covered in pieces of crap. They have like poop maps.
They defecate in the street.
They let that happen in their cities. The San Francisco has a poop map where all the reported sightings of feces everywhere. And it's I can't believe I have to talk about it, but it's just a fact. This is happening. Someone has to talk about it. It's just ridiculous. It's getting out of hand.
And you want to put these people in power? I mean, really?
I don't want to walk through North Carolina with poop all over my streets. I'm not gonna.
Well, Charlotte's bad because Democrats run Charlotte, and that's why you're seeing a rise in homelessness in Charlotte, and there's a huge trash problem. But you're seeing diseases come back in Los Angeles that have been wiped off the face of the earth for centuries now because you have all these homeless people that are crammed into the cities, and it's just disgusting.
They live in cardboard boxes.
They sleep in trash.
They sleep in trash.
New York City is infested with rats, and they said now in the news I was reading online the other day that we have a possibility of the Black Plague coming back, and it's starting in the heart of Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles, because of the homelessness problem, because of the trash problem.
Just block after block after block of just tent cities of just homeless people that are just there, and it keeps increasing. It's like, what is going on?
The police aren't allowed to do anything because the Democrats running the city from the top down are telling the police to just let the people stay there. I mean, what? That's your pride? That's what you want to have pride in the city that you run? Garbage, homelessness, disease. Drugs on the street, needles on the street.
Needles on the street, and you have to step on this stuff, and it's just like, dude, we can't let this happen to our country. You know, it's happening in California because they're like the farthest down the leftist rabbit hole, so to speak.
Well, there's a few cities. I actually think there's more Republicans in California than any other state, just because of the sheer population density.
The sheer population.
Yeah, so there's more Republicans in California than there are even in Texas, believe it or not. But it's the major cities in the state that ruin the state. It's the leftists that are in Los Angeles and San Francisco.
Remember, they're the leftists are the ones saying, "Oh, we need the popular vote instead of getting rid of the electoral college," because they know that if they can get just the votes from the inner cities, which has the most concentration of people, they're going to try to take over the elections, and that way they can rule over all the people in the rural areas.
Wow. So I have an issue. Well, I mean, that's not going to happen regardless, but they can't win an election, so now they want to change the rules.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, so what do we do about this homeless population? I mean, what are we going to possibly do about it? What do we have to do? I think it's the welfare state? Is it the fact that people are becoming so
well, part of it I think is a drug problem. The other part I think is a mental health problem, and what's in between is a mixture of the two. So I'm not sure. I mean, the police should be able to act, though. You know, I'm not competent enough in that field to have any policy requests there.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I just want to kind of discuss it as kind of a brainstorming session, because it doesn't help that the leftists are not working to prevent all these drugs from coming across the southern border and getting into the hands of these people, hands of all kinds of people, and getting them addicted to all these drugs. And then now you have young kids just sitting on the sidewalk, just dozing their life away, like
shooting up
fentanyl and dying. And I was just talking with my friend the other day about how it's sad that there are friends and people I know that are dead already. Like, I'm a young guy.
I lost count.
Yeah, there's so many people that die.
There's a serious opioid epidemic going on in the country right now, which, I mean, does result back to the crisis going on at the southern border, because most of it comes from Mexico.
It spreads all throughout the country from the southern
border.
border. So, I mean, this is a huge problem, and we care about our people. We care about the country. That's why we have to protect the border. We have to. It's just ridiculous that we need to actually. Once again, like they're always blaming racism and stuff. No, Trump doesn't hate Mexicans. He never said that. They always say that. They always bring that up even to this day. They're like, oh, Trump hates all Mexicans and says they're rapists. It's like, no,
that's
he
absurd.
definitely said
he wants people
some of them are rapists, because some of them are. It's not about all Mexicans are rapists. He never said.
Well, and some of them are MS-13 gang members,
exactly.
But 100% of illegal immigrants that migrate into this country are criminals. I mean, the word illegal is in the name, illegal immigrant. You know, race has nothing to do with it. I mean, I don't care what color they are. I don't care what country they come from, but you need to come in the country the right way. I'm not being prejudiced. I'm just saying we have a legal system that needs to be followed. Laws are set in place for a reason.
Right.
And I have another issue with, I think even legal immigration should be limited, just because I think there's too many people here. I mean, it still has nothing to do with anyone I'm trying to keep out of the country. I just think certain areas are overpopulated, and I like things the way they are. But
we have to allow assimilation, because if you have let's say if you have no limits, that means that literally 5 million people could just come in legally. They could come in legally. But then what happens is they bring their culture from their country. They don't need to assimilate then, because now they're surrounded by 50 people from their family from their previous country. They can turn on the channel and have their media from another country. So they live in a bubble world where they're still in Mexico, but they're actually in their minds, but they're actually in America, because they're surrounded by a community that helps them without having to learn English. So yeah, I mean, we've always had limited immigration for a reason.
All right, I have a huge problem if someone lives here and they can't speak English. You know, I'm not sorry for that either. I mean, you move to the United States of America, even if you're illegal and you're here, like at least learn to speak the language, at least.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's like we're dividing this country up into segments that can't even communicate with each other. That's a huge problem. But the leftists don't care at all. They're all about, let's learn their language. Let's try to appease. It's always about appeasing, instead of remembering our roots, remembering what America stands for, how America became great. It was because of the fact that we have limited immigration. We've always had it since the beginning of the country, since the foundation of the United States. We've always had limited migration, and it's actually used to be way more restricted. It's because of the leftists and the globalist interests that keep expanding how much you can let in. And at this point, the leftists are not even willing to support law and order. They're just like, no human is illegal. You literally have to let them all in. There's no limit.
I think illegal immigration needs to be stopped completely, and we need to vastly limit legal immigration.
Because otherwise there's diseases coming in. I mean, is that what's going to have to happen for these leftists to wake up? Is that all of a sudden there's a disease outbreak that comes from illegal immigrants? Because, I mean, I would hate for that to happen. But we're warning people, like, look, if we let this continue on, yes, there's already is like tuberculosis and stuff coming from the southern border. And I really hope that we don't get Ebola.
Smallpox.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and Ebola, like, I really hope that doesn't happen. But if we continue to let thousands upon thousands of people cross the border every single day, which is caught on camera, this is not a conspiracy theory. This is just absolute fact, and like, it's not even debatable. It's just like, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's definitely a big problem, because that's how you collapse a country. That's how you collapse a country. Just think about that.
Yeah, I think Democrats want the country to fail. I don't see how they can honestly believe in any of their policies working for the long term.
And some of the radical, yeah.
I mean, ask them. I mean, what's your 2-year, 5-year, 10-year plan? I mean, really. I don't see how any of them think that their policies are going to be worthwhile.
They want, what they want is basically, they don't even realize they want it, but they want communism. That's really what they want, because they want free stuff, and it's my right to have this. I remember there was like a poster of like the Cuban communist propaganda from back in when it was like there was a revolution in Cuba. It was the same stuff that they were promoting back then for communism. Oh yeah, you want a right to health care, you want a right to education, we can do it for you, and it was the communist revolution. That's how you destroy a country, because then there's a dictatorship that tells everyone or gives everyone whatever.
Well, it promotes dependency.
And when there's a monopoly, that means that first of all, the prices of everything rises like crazy. There's no competition. You're a slave to the system. You don't have any other choices but whatever the government gives you, and that's the end of the story. And that's the Democrats' platform, essentially.
It's failure.
Total failure, the total disregard for the free market and how it's been successful throughout history in our country and throughout the world. And the fact that these leftists don't realize that is kind of concerning, that they don't know what they're actually supporting.
Well, I just think they should keep pushing AOC all the way up until election time. I mean, she's just a plethora of idiocracy. And I mean, I enjoy it. I do. I enjoy it. It's just a fountain of.
Oh yeah, Ilhan Omar too. Ilhan Omar is like saying, what did she say the other day? She was like, "Oh, look at this news story from New York Times." Of course, the New York Times. And she was saying, "Oh, the New York Times. They're saying, oh, it's like some." Without any proof or anything, it's just an article about someone saying, oh, the Border Patrol are abusing these illegal immigrants by not letting them, I forgot what she was saying, like chaining them down to like a bed or something. And it's like, and she's like, how can we treat all these illegals like this and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, I get it, you don't want to treat the illegals badly, but look at how we're treating Americans. Like, she only cares about treating the illegals as a total kings.
I wouldn't even go that far, though, because I don't believe in her statement. I don't like when they say, oh, they're putting children in cages at the southern border. No, they're treated pretty humanely when they're detained crossing into the country illegally. They're treated pretty well.
But that's all she cares about. She doesn't care about, oh, the Americans being put in danger with drugs and diseases and
Well, what they do is they point to the few deaths that have taken place down there, and the people that have died is normally from severe dehydration because they're walking for days through the desert. It has nothing to do with the treatment they receive. When they're brought into custody by Border Patrol, if there's anything wrong with them, Border Patrol tries their best to help their situation.
And those are the people that make it here. There's people that along the way in the desert get raped and killed by some cartel on the Mexico side. I mean, these are the people that get here. They're already lucky to begin with. And then there's people like Ilhan Omar was saying, oh, we treat them so badly, but then you look at what she's talking about. These are psychotic. Some of these illegals have mental problems and they kill themselves. And then she's like, that's why we need to abolish the ICE, because these people are killing themselves and we're not giving them enough medical attention to help them, their suicidal thoughts. It's like, come on. If you're letting thousands of people with mental issues coming into our country to begin with, and then we're supposed to be responsible for them killing themselves. We're not killing them. They're killing themselves. There's literally suicide people that are killing themselves, so they have mental problems, and then when they get detained, they don't know what to do and they kill themselves. It's just insane.
They shouldn't be breaking our laws to get here. I mean, anyone can try to come in the legal way, the right way, but we should probably wrap up our show for today. Don't want to beat a dead horse, but thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episodes of the Patriot Torch, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, one last thing I wanted to say about the border.
Never mind.
One last thing. The people that are, if the Democrats weren't promoting this open border policy, you wouldn't have to have all these immigrants that are, fighting for their life just to get here, and then putting all these immigrants in danger because you're telling them that we would accept them. If it was well known that you're not going to be let in, then they wouldn't come. They wouldn't be in danger with their lives trying to cross the border to begin with. But anyways, thank you for listening. And like Ethan said, we will definitely post. The next one's coming up soon, and we'll just keep coming with new episodes. So thanks for watching, and share and like and subscribe. So see you in the next one.